at BVT Network, during the week, we get a huge amount of pitches from PR people and speakers requesting to come on one of our shows. We're very grateful for that, but also selective, as our viewers and listeners come first. Don't you, viewers and listeners? So we'll filter and then research each potential guest. But sometimes, just sometimes, one will stand out and we bypass that part of the process and say an instant yes. That's certainly true of my guest today. Was it his name that stood out? Was it the title of his book, Tighten the Lug Nuts? Was it his promise to inspire you to go after your dreams? I'll let you decide. As I say, welcome, Rocky Romanella.
Well, Malcolm, it's great to be on the show, boy. You really laid out some good goals there for me, but I'm not sure I can hit them all for you. I'll try my best, but I will tell you we'll have a entertaining and educational conversation. So I'll look forward to it.
I just knew we were going to, Rocky, as soon as we tuned in. Give us a very brief run through, though, of your career to date and what you want to bring to viewers during this interview.
Well, quickly, I had a 36-year career at UPS, and UPS I was working my way through college at the time. I actually went to school to be a high school history teacher and a baseball coach. But what I learned quickly on in that process as I was unloading trailers was that the best leaders got their people to connect the dots. So for me, I never gave up my passion for teaching or coaching. I just really did it in a different venue, which was business. They also had a promotion from within policy, which I took advantage of. And so my dad told me two things when I started at UPS, June 15th, 1976. So I'm kind of giving away my age there a little bit, but he said two things. He said, whatever they ask you to do, say yes and thank you, and then learn your job and learn some more. So when I got that tap on the shoulders at different times in my career for the next promotion or the next move, physical move, I may not have always felt ready, but what I learned, the valuable lesson was, say yes and thank you. So I said yes. And then I realized that as leaders, we have to believe in our people until they're ready to believe in themselves. You bridge that gap of knowledge and confidence by your belief in them. And so then you get to that break-even point, and then you step back as a leader and you allow that person to fly. And that was a very valuable lesson for me. So as I moved through the organization, I had some very interesting opportunities, one of which we purchased mailboxes, et cetera. And then rebranded it to the UPS store. I had that as a direct report, had the opportunity to work with some of the finest entrepreneurs in the world and go through that whole rebranding. And then we purchased over 20 companies and built what's today UPS Supply Chain Solutions. And I ran this side of the world for UPS, retired from UPS, was recruited to be a CEO of a telecom company. And we built cell towers, upgraded cell towers, did the 3G to 4G, had a sale there. And then I started my own company, 360 Management Services. So Malcolm, I guess what you could say is my biggest failure is retirement.
Yeah, right. You're not retired yet. None of us retire when we get to that. No, we go on and on and on, Rocky, like that battery, you know, that Duracell battery. Look, I want you to go straight in on your book, which is called Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. What's it about? And what was the spark that caused you to write it? Oh, and just before you start, I'll explain to proper English-speaking viewers, that's the proper ones, you know, that a lug nut is a wheel nut.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. So for me, the concept of the book was all around this concept I've always believed in of legacy. That as leaders, you know, your legacy is this concept of, did you leave things a little better than you found them? Are people better because of their time with you? Are your customers better because of their interaction with you? And so for me, the book was just a way to kind of put together in some stories, the lessons I learned along the way, the journey that I had, and the wonderful people I met who inspired and helped me. And hopefully through the book, that would be my legacy, but also a way to help others. In the book, there's a story about Tighten the Lug Nuts. But quickly, if you think about it, when a lug nut's loose on a vehicle, the nut on the wheel, you could quickly tighten it. It may take you 5 minutes and it's done. But if you don't tighten it and you get distracted or you move on to something else that you think is bigger, and then a day or two later, the wheel falls off, what was important yesterday becomes urgent. And as leaders and as people in our personal lives, we can only handle so many urgent things. So tighten the lug nuts. And you think about in your life, all those loose lug nuts that are out there. And I think it's so important, just tighten them. Take the opportunity to do the things you need to do when you do them. and then they're taken care of. If you don't, they go from important to be urgent, and you can only handle so many urgent things.
I was just thinking there, Rocky, as you were saying that, I go to get a new tire on my car, and it says, after so many miles, make sure you tighten the wheel nuts. And I never do. So it's,
You got some loose lug nuts there, Malcolm.
well, yeah, well, I've got some loose nuts, that's for certain. But it's only just so I'm on my way. I pick the car up and I'm going 1,000 miles to drive, 100 miles, and like that, and I forget about tightening the lug nuts that I should have really done. So I wonder how many people actually do forget about doing that.
Oh, and just think about all the examples that jump to your mind. Simple things like you've gotten this email from someone in the organization, and it's an important email that you could simply do right now, but you put it on the side. You're working on something else, and now the phone rings, and now it's drop everything. We've got to fix this. Or you think about when we were in school, and that project we should have gotten done, we didn't. Now we're doing it the night before. So there's a lot of loose lug nuts in our lives, both personally and professionally. And that simple act of just taking care of things when you can is so important, because it allows you then to that concept of balanced leadership, to be in balance, right? If you're not in balance, then you're going left and right. You're taking yourself on and off plan because of these loose lug nuts.
Yeah, I'm very much with you on this. Now, I was also totally drawn to your part in your bio where you firmly state that you believe values matter. Now, I'm really in tune with that, and none more so than in today's world that we're experiencing. Where do you think leaders go wrong in their thinking about values? For example, do they put profit before values?
Well, I think that it starts with the theory that profit is just a result of having good values, of treating your people with dignity and respect, by treating your customers, understanding your customers' needs, wants, and aspirations, and how do you help them? It's what keeps your customer up awake at night. So if you think about it, profit is the applause that you get from your people and your customers. And it starts with you as the leader. I think a leader needs to ask 3 questions of themselves. Take a really serious inventory of these 3 questions. Who am I? What do I stand for? And what are the things that I won't compromise? And companies really need to be able to answer those same 3, but we're talking about individuals as leaders today. And if you think about it, Malcolm, 1 and 2, most people can articulate. Who am I? What do I stand for? Number 3 is the one you always get challenged on. What are the things I won't compromise? I understand that that's the real number, but what if I round up a little bit and I hit my business plan? I understand that, the customer believes I need to get this done on this day. I think I'll get it done in the next 12 hours. So I'll tell them it's done, but it really isn't done. Safety is another one. Is that person really qualified to drive that vehicle? Well, I think they know how to drive it, so I'll let them drive. You have to be able to answer number 3. What are the things I won't compromise? Because that's what you'll get challenged on. That's what will set your tone as a leader. And frankly, that's what people remember the most about you.
I agree. I started my life in work many, many years ago in Manchester in the UK, and I couldn't find a job. And eventually I was offered to go to a meeting to sell Encyclopedia Britannica around the doorstep. Yeah, it was that desperate. And I went in and they said, we'll move you through into the next room and they started giving us the how to make the sales. And I said, well, surely people have a cooling off period. Yes, well, what you do is just turn the piece of paper over so they can't see that. So I stood up in front of everybody else, gave the piece of paper, gave them everything they'd given me there and said, that's not for me. And everybody else just looked at me saying, but you need the job. No, you can't sacrifice your values, can you?
Oh, that's absolutely true. And the other side of that, not other side, but another way to look at it too, is it's important for companies to have a good understanding of who they are, what they stand for, and what they won't compromise, and what are their values. And if you think about it, as we talked in the introduction, I was at UPS for 36 years. In today's world, you don't see a lot of longevity like that.
No.
But the thing I always tell people is I didn't agree with everything that happened at UPS. I didn't disagree enough to leave because my values, I felt like I belonged there. My values matched up. Hard work, enthusiasm, integrity. You do the right things. You take it on the chin if you did something wrong, and you understand and you learn from it. I think what happens today when there's a lot of turnover of people, I think what happens, people's values don't match up with the company's values. And when that happens, that's when you start to get a lot of turnover. So when you're an organization that's starting to have turnover, you got to start to think to yourself, are our values and our approach and the way we treat our people and the way we go about doing things, are they matching up with today's workforce? And if the answer is no, you're going to lose those people because they start to believe, well, I don't fit here. It's like when you go to college, when a kid goes to college and he walks on the campus, you can just see in their face, I feel like I belong here. I feel like this is a place where I can be. Well, it's the same in an organization. I feel like I can belong here. I may not agree with everything, but I don't disagree enough to leave, and I'm not challenged on my values. We match up.
I just came to my mind there, Rocky, as you were talking there, an interview I've just done this week, that 40% of workers, employees in the UK at the moment are looking to leave their job because of the poor support and the fact that they haven't felt valued during the work from home time. Interesting. It confirms everything you said there.
Well, and I think that's going to be the real challenge post-COVID is this whole concept of, distance learning or distance working, or you still have to be able to let people feel like they're part of something, that they're part of the organization. They do it from a distance, to your point. But if I don't feel like I belong, if I don't feel like my work's valued, if I don't feel like people understand the things I'm doing and how I'm doing them and how that I'm not part of the problem, I'm part of the solution. I think what ends up happening is then there's always that, one eye's on my work and one eye's looking for where the next job could come from. And I think that's also, it's disruptive to the business, but it's also disruptive in people's personal life, because that change now starts a whole new process in their personal lives too.
Now, in my 200 plus interviews since coronavirus entered our daily news lives, I've noticed a soaring graph of gloom when I have private chats with the interviewees. They need something to be moving forward towards. What's the art of inspiration, and how can it help people in these continuing uncertain times, overcome obstacles, and if needed, transform our lives?
Well, I think it starts with, as an individual, understanding that this is the measure of character. This is really who I am from a character perspective. Coming out of this, there's going to be three types of people, but think about it from a company, three types of companies. There's going to be that company that makes it and actually comes up bigger, better, stronger. They fix their balance sheets. They understand what it takes, from a leaner, meaner way to run. There's going to be that group in the middle, probably that's about 60% of them that they're just teetering. They may make it, they may not. And then there's a whole group that sadly didn't make it, have either closed already or will shortly. As individuals, the same thing. Am I that individual that comes out of this? I've learned some things. I understand the ways to communicate remotely with my people. I've looked at things strategically different, right? How did I position my organization? How do I position myself the way an organization does to come out of this? And I think that's the challenge you have to set for yourself. Look, you have to be the architect of your own destiny. Nobody should impact you more than you can impact yourself. And so with that in mind, then I'm sitting there through COVID coming in, and I'm a keynote speaker, as you know, and I had a very robust business coming, before this. Oh, well, I'm doing things virtually now. I'm understanding virtually. You see, I've bought this microphone. I've got a camera. Well, that's, I'm not looking to be a movie star, but I'm looking to adjust to and understand where's the puck going. What's the world going to look like coming out of it? And does Rocky want to participate in it? Well, that's a question everyone has to ask yourself. Once you understand that, and once you understand that, look, I'm going to be the architect of my own destiny, you go from doom and gloom to, I'm pretty excited. I can make a difference. No one's going to impact me more than I can impact myself. It starts with you. You drive your energy. You drive your enthusiasm. And as I always say, no one should ever impact you more than you can impact yourself.
Hey, I talking about movie star. You've got the right name. You're on the way.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, Rocky, having a name like Rocky when you were a kid in Catholic school always made it easier for the nuns to remember who they wanted to yell at. I needed a name that kind of flowed, like George or Peter or something like that. Yeah. Rocky, who made that noise? It had to be that kid named Rocky. Where is he? Go find him.
Yes, very good. Rocky, the phrase authentic leadership is commonly heard today, and I certainly think it has merit, but it could quickly become an abused phrase. You believe in true or authentic leadership. Practice it, write about it, speak about it. What's your definition of authentic leadership?
See, for me, authentic really means genuine, or you understand who you are. So for me, for example, I understand that there are no easy jobs in any organization or any place that I've worked. And so my role as CEO, I used to tell people all the time, as CEO, I'm the chief enthusiasm officer.
Yeah.
People don't need me to go out and do frontline work. It's not that I wouldn't want to do it. And I love doing those kinds of things. No, my job is to support my people. My job is to understand what they're doing and what help do they need and how do we position our organization. So for me, authentic or genuine really is understanding that it's never about me as the leader. It's always about our people. It's always about our customers. That to me is genuine or authentic. It's not, I think sometimes people and organizations come up with these great programs and we want to be an authentic company. We want to be an authentic leader. How'd you treat people yesterday when someone needed something? Someone just had a new child, just had that senior person in your organization just had their first grandchild, as you and I have experienced, right? Such an important moment. And they say to you, hey, I've used up all my personal days, but they're bringing the baby home. We got the opportunity. I would see the first grandchild, and you're sitting there saying, oh, well, you got no more days left. That one, yeah, go ahead, take your day, enjoy your family. Those are the things that make you genuine, because you're no different than they are. You would want to be there as well. So you start to you forget that your title says this or your position in your organization says that. What you look at is, hey, we're all equal. And frankly, their job is probably more important than mine because they're closest to the customer. They're delivering on the brand. So don't get so excited about who you are, what your title says. It's more about the people who are executing the brand in the organization. So be genuine. Understand, would I want that day off, or would I need this opportunity? And if it is, or I'm looking at that individual we just promoted and looking at their eyes saying, boy, they really seem to be a little overwhelmed. How do I help them? Not embarrass them by saying, hey, a little bit overwhelmed. No, hey, I can help you out with this. So I think that's what makes you a genuine person, because you don't forget who you are and where you came from.
Yeah, spot on. Totally spot on. Now, just before we move on to the next question, I just want to remind viewers to make certain they've taken down your URL, which is on the screen behind me, because that's your journey towards getting this fabulous book. And we'll talk about the book now and go back to it and tell viewers and audio listeners the top 3 dangers they'll face if they don't tighten those lug nuts.
Well, one is you'll get overwhelmed. And so when you're overwhelmed, you get frustrated, and then you start to make bad decisions, right? Because you're behind now. And so you shortcut on things. And so one of the most important things when you have loose lug nuts is you lose control. You lose that ability to be the architect of your own destiny. I think that that's so important. I think the second thing is when you have loose lug nuts, you lose the ability to start being strategic because you're in the moment all the time. Leaders need to take that step back, support their people who are doing the job on a day-to-day basis. And what they're hoping that you're doing as a leader is you're getting vision. What's our organization look like in the next 6 months, year, 12 months, 18 months from now? It's hard to be strategic if you're always pulling over to the side of the road and fixing the front wheel that's about to come off because you didn't tighten the lug nut. So I think that loose lug nuts then take away your ability to be strategic and force you to be more tactical. So as we said, the first one is you're getting overwhelmed. The second one is you're losing the ability to be strategic and you end up being tactical. And then the third one is you're losing the ability to recognize your people. What happens is those simple acts of kindness. Malcolm, great job yesterday. Hey, thanks for all you do on behalf of our organization. That genuinely understanding that they're the ones that are producing the results on behalf of your organization, that they have that ability to impact your customer because they're the closest to your customers. They can make that difference. Well, that happens when you have the ability to recognize the jobs they're doing and to have those simple acts of kindness. If you're overwhelmed and if you're not strategic and you don't have the ability to have those conversations because of the loose lug nuts, all these urgent things are happening that could have been important, you lose that ability. And once you lose that ability to say thank you at the appropriate time, you never get that back. People never forget those kinds of things. And I think that's what's so important is your ability to let your people know that you value them and you do it in a way that makes them feel really good about themselves.
I'm going to make an exception here, Rocky, and tell people they've got to get your book. Otherwise, they're going to have bad dreams and the wheels are going to come up in the dreams. Now, Rocky, I like to give all my guests 3 wishes. If I were to give you 3 wishes for where leaders should improve their competencies, what would those 3 wishes be?
Well, the first one would be communication, because it's so important to be a good communicator, both written, but also physically being there, right? Take that walk, leave your office, go out and visit people and have those communications. And the biggest reason why leaders never leave their office is because there's no problems in their office. You know, once I leave my office, I have to see problems, address problems, and then have to make a decision and fix those things. So I would say communication is so important. I think it's going to be more important post-COVID, because now you're going to have to I have a person, distance learning, a distance working person. I can't text them and say, hey, you just got a raise. I can't text them on their, on their QPR or evaluation process. So it's going to be important for me to do that. That would be one, communication skills. The second, I think, is so important, is succession planning, and that's that people development. You know, it could be that I'm trying to get you to be the best person you can be in the current job, and you may never rise up to the next level or in an organization, but you're the best you can be because we've put together the programs that can help you do those things. As an organization, we can't wake up one day and say, hey, so-and-so just retired and we don't have someone to replace them. So succession planning is so important for the life of an organization. The first 100 years of any organization doesn't guarantee the second 100 years. So it's important to have good succession planning. And I think that also helps in retention, because if I know I belong here and my values fit here and there's a path for me, I'm more likely to stay in that organization than look to leave that organization. So that would be number 2. And then the last wish I would have for leaders is just remember, it's never about you. It's always about your people. It's about your customers. The minute you make it about you, you lose them. You know, how many times we've sat in a meeting and someone you're working for is saying, you don't know what it's like to be me. You don't know how difficult it is. And you're thinking to yourself, well, you got the good job. You're making more money than I am, and you wanted that job. So don't be telling me how difficult your job is. And I think that that's the mistake that always happens. They make it about themselves. Never make it about you. It's never about you. It's always about your people. It's about your customers. It's about the organization.
Rocky, those were 3 very brilliant and inspiring wishes, and I'll do my Disney best to make them come true. Rocky Romanella, author of Tighten the Lug Nuts. I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting you.
I as well, sir. And if there's anything you or your audience ever needs, please know you can count me on that. You can visit our website, tightenthelugnuts.com. It'll take you over to our other site, 360 Management Services. But if there's anything you or your audience needs, please know that you can count on me for that.